Welcome back to another installment of Analyst Hour. It is our last episode of Analyst Hour before we enter the playoffs, which is exciting. We just finished the regular season. Obviously, I'm accompanied by Michael Goldsmith and a long overdue guest, Mr. Ian Chattery. Let's hear it for Ian.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Michael. It's been great being a part of this league for so long and finally getting to be on the show, which I've listened to avidly every week.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And like I said, long overdue. So before we jump right into it, I do have to hit some boring stuff, but very important stuff nonetheless. Playoffs are right around the corner. It is looming in, and I would like to reiterate some things and answer some FAQs. So, firstly, the playoff protocols. The second and third seed will be playing each other in a best 2 out of 3 series to 15 points each game. The higher seed gets ball to start games 1 and game 3 if necessary. Disclaimer, the higher seed does not have a 1-0 series lead over the lower seed, unlike 1 year in the past. But I hope that clarifies it. Another thing about playoffs, or 2 more things about playoffs. 1, unlike the regular season, and the captains already know this, we are very flexible with rescheduling. Unlike the regular season, when we're more focused on getting it completed, this is more so we are emphasizing on attendance. We want the most players that can show up possible and reduce any requirements or needs for substitutes. With that said, you have a 6-day grace period with playoffs. So for the first round this Sunday, if a team wishes to reschedule, they have up until the following Saturday to reschedule. Hopefully that gives you an ample amount of time and freedom to pick a date where everyone can go. Lastly, permanent subs, and I've said this before, we've said this, we've tweeted this, we've said this, are not eligible to compete in the playoffs. If the team has a permanent sub, not anymore, and a team will not be granted a permanent sub in the playoffs. Please do not confuse this for a general substitute, meaning you can still get a substitute if 2 players are missing. However, you will not be granted a permanent substitute for 1 player's extended leave of absence. I hope that clarified everything. If you have any questions, please reach out. But other than that, let's get into it. Ian, it is such a privilege to have you on this show because you are one of the longest tenured ASL players. Like I said, it's long overdue. I'm going to say that for probably the 3rd time. But not only do we appreciate your play, we appreciate your mind in the game as well. Mike and I come here and we sometimes agree, we sometimes disagree. But one thing we have in common is the love for the game, and we both think we have a pretty good general understanding of it as well. We always make fun of ourselves saying, God blessed us with the basketball minds, but unfortunately has placed us in these not so great for basketball bodies. But you have been blessed with both. So please, we're going to pick your brain on this season, and maybe we'll get into a little bit of your career as a whole. But the reason why this is truly a perfect time to have you on the show is because you have really lived as a Spartan the true underdog story. You guys were 1-3 to the first round bye. Let's take this step by step. Where did you weren't even drafted to the Spartans. You were drafted to the Pack, and we're not really going to get into like the pros and cons of each trade and who wanted that. But I would love to hear Ian's perspective from day one, getting drafted to the Pack, then getting traded, and then walk me through the first 4 games when you guys went 1-3, and then where your mind was at that point. I know that's a mouthful, so please take your time.
For sure. Yeah, so declared to be a player this year rather than a captain. I honestly just thought if I can't win with the first overall pick, if I lose 11-4 both games in the playoffs, I'm not good enough. I can be honest with myself and admit that I'm not good enough to lead a team. Not to say that I'm not good enough as a player, but just in general as a captain, the level of talent in the league has definitely increased. So excited to be a player. I didn't really, have too much of a say in where I was being drafted. I got a text from Pissy saying, you're on the Pack, was excited. Then heard that I got traded, and didn't really have any hard feelings, to be honest. I was more just excited for my new team. These were all teammates who I'd never played with before. I really didn't know going into the season how it would be. We didn't practice too much. We made a group chat. We made a plan for the first game, but my knee got hurt playing in the Fens one of the nights, so I wasn't even there for the first game. But immediately from that first game against the Galaxy, one of our rivals, or one of our division teammates, or division teams, I saw from Campbell and Baraldi a willingness to win, a willingness to not quit, a willingness to persevere throughout, unexpected or trying circumstances, whether it be rain, whether it be, having not our best, not having our captain, not having me. I saw a willingness to win, and honestly, from there, I just took leadership with regards to texting in the group chat, like, what should we do the night before? We aren't necessarily friends as we didn't really talk a lot, whatever, but as a team, I found success in, like, my teammates sort of listening to me and listening to different ideas that I had. And on the court, I've always been a vocal person, not too much off the court in general, but on the court itself, I'm really locked in regarding what my teammates need to do. I think communicating is extremely important. So, we had some bad luck with injuries. We had some bad luck in our doubleheader, especially. I don't think we came out too prepared for it. And especially in our doubleheader, our biggest deficiency is size. We played the Billies and the Hatamotos in our doubleheader, which has, four of the tallest and best athletic rebounders in the league, who Nick Zelanskas just killed us in the putbacks. Carter Brzezinski scored 15 points on us. We actually did a pretty good job on Jack Curtin, who was the MVP candidate, MVP first ballot candidate, front runner. Yeah. We only held him to 4 points, but after that, we honestly had a positive outlook on it all. After starting 1-3, first game, we didn't have me or Nick. Second game was a little bit of a wash with the pack not having their players, but we pinpointed the fact that we only got killed on the boards. This is going to be a problem for us in the future, but we got through it. Now all we have to do is just win out. And from there, we kind of just took it game by game. I saw everyone's confidences improve in their shots. And I think I personally really like the role of commandeering this offense. I really like from my numbers, my assists, you can see that I've taken more of a control in, driving and kicking, giving people the confidence to take those open shots, telling Nick to drive when he has a mismatch. It honestly just feels like a perfect storm right now of us all feeling confident in our playing to our skills, which I can get into a little bit more. But overall, it's been probably one of my favorite seasons yet, and definitely my favorite team that I've played on so far.
I mean, that could just bring a tear to my eye. Could I not?
That was so well said.
So well said. And the thing, Michael and I, we've been critical of every team, and definitely the Spartans have had their fair share of it. But one thing that I think the Spartans have that not a lot of teams can say fully is that not only do you guys believe in yourselves individually as people, but you believe in each other. And that is so apparent when you guys are playing out there. And we even compliment Nick all the time for benching himself. And he's done it multiple times. And it's awesome. And most guys, when they bench, it's a rarity that a captain benches himself. But when they do, it has happened before. They go get a water, maybe go shoot the shit with a few buddies. And he definitely does that, but he's also still locked in the game. And anytime happens, he reacts, he throws his hands up. Like when Baraldi had that monstrous game in Knights of Columbus a few weeks ago. I mean, Brzezinski was the biggest off-court supporter.
He had his hands up every time.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, that was such a, it felt like such a genesis, such a renaissance, like Brawley looked reborn. And I love that you have, the Spartans have really welcomed Campbell, a rookie who, in my opinion, didn't really find his footing in the first week or two, but you guys really welcomed him with open arms. I mean, his attitude was there, but establishing himself as a player, he definitely took some time, and like we all do.
Yeah.
And you had someone like Baraldi, who's had hot seasons and is coming off of a very cold season. Open him with open arms. And obviously, it's easy to welcome a past captain and long-tenured player such as yourself. But also, you guys welcome Nick really well, too, because our issue with Nick has never been his skill, but it almost appeared his lack of urgency. And you guys all, at least is what you could, maybe it was spoken or unspoken, welcomed each other, flaws and all. And it's been so awesome to watch you guys, like I said, go 1-3, and any other team would roll over and die. It looks tough. And you guys flourish and are now the first seed. So it's really been a true underdog story. Before we continue this conversation, Mike, you want to hop in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Spartans have been known as Andover's team for a reason. Like the underdog story. I know we're just glazing the Spartans right now, but it's deserved when you go from 1-3 to a first round bye. That doesn't happen. Even the Stampede in their incredible run last season.
In Stephen Shaw's conference.
Yeah, and that's a whole that's incredible. I mean, realistically, even as well as the Spartans played, no one was picking the Spartans to beat the Pride last week, besides themselves, and that's all that mattered. You guys believe in yourselves. The defense was incredible. The way you guys collapsed on Stephen Shaw, Nick Resendez was playing out of his mind. But yeah, it's very refreshing to see, kind of like you mentioned, Ian, how you guys don't have to be the closest friends off the court to still have the best chemistry on the court, and it's really incredible to see. And that's what this league is all about. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing to watch. I've been pretty vocal that if the Billies don't win, I want the Spartans to win. Yeah, it's just been awesome to watch as an analyst, as a fan, as a player, and I really hope you guys keep doing your thing because it has been just a great brand of basketball to watch.
Thank you. I honestly think we're one of the most unique teams to ever played in the ASL, and unique in terms of not only just what different skill sets that we have, but in terms of how we've been winning. ASL the past few years to me has just felt a lot like not just the Steven show, but the star show or the individual effort show.
It's a captain's league. It's a captain's league.
Absolutely. It's definitely a captain's league. But yeah, I mean, when you have, not to bring up stats or anything, but when you have a fourth man and your captain averaging 0.8 points in difference, and when no one averaging below 4 points, I don't think that's ever like, not only has that never happened, I don't think that's like translated to success, but we've definitely found a way. I mean, not to say that the job is finished. Still have probably Steve or Alex Bissacrita to see in the playoffs. Both I have history with Alex last year in the playoffs, and Steve's definitely looking for revenge after last week's game. It'll be exciting. We have so much left to do, but I really, really like riding with this team, and appreciate all the wishes and hope we keep going forward.
Yeah, it's got to feel nice knowing all of Andover and our extensive fan base behind your back, the wind in your sails. But let's do like a quick transition over to playoffs, and you will be the gateway. You obviously have the first round bye, and you will like you had mentioned, you will have to either face Alex Bissacrita on the Pack or Stephen Shaw on the Pride. We all know, unless it's not the obvious, I am guessing your preferred matchup and who comes out on top. I know mine if I were in your boots, but your shoes. Who the hell says boots? Anyway, and your slippers. So, what do you think the Pack has to do to take down Steven? And then we can add we can do the pity. What does Steven and the Pride have to do to take down the Pack? And that's not to bash the Pack. It's more to prop at the Steven. But what does each team have to do in your eyes to take down each other?
Absolutely. I'll keep it short. I've been talking for a lot, but the Pack, they have their blueprint like hung up on the wall, clear for everyone to see. They live and die by the 3-point shot from Navkal Nunez. Been hitting the past multiple weeks. I think not only do Sarang and Arvin just have to take advantage, get to the right spots when Alex Bissacrita is driving, but they have to shoot with confidence, knowing that they have been doing this and not thinking about the playoffs. I don't know if Sarang has playoff experience. I know Arvin has, but definitely last year's playoffs, Arvin had a little bit of a disappearing act. Not to call him out, but I know
it's absolute Houdini, and he knows it. No, he admits it.
No, I know that he's ready. He's ready to go. He's ready to avenge that loss. Just keeping it in perspective for the two shooters of the team. They are both also. Sarang is a very underrated perimeter defender. I'm just going to say that he consistently can lock me up, and he needs to be that type of player on Pat. Pat had an amazing game last week. And I think Pissy needs to take advantage of the fact that they don't really have a true big man to clog the paint when he's driving. They do have Steve, but word from the grapevine is that Steve's going to be guarding one of Sarong or Arvin, and if they can pull him out and keep him running on the perimeter, Pissy's going to have dry like lanes all day. So honestly, I think the matchup, we're not doing predictions yet, but this matchup is a lot closer than people might think just because of Steven Shaw's presence. So yeah, the pack live and die by that three, get to their spots. Pissy, please take over and drive when Steve's getting pulled out. On defense, literally just swarm Steve. You know how we've been switching. Most teams have been switching, trying to double, get the ball out of his hands. And yeah, just in terms of the pride, I think Steven Shaw is going to have a lot on his plate. I know you can't leave Pat open, definitely not, but Steven Shaw is going to have to do the most. And one of his better playoff performances of his career to beat the pack in 3 games. And not to call out Costa, but more to call out Steve. Speaking from a past captain of Costa's experience, the way to like get Costa going is to like not berate him, but to like tell him, be like mean to him and say like, yo, like you are not playing the way you need to right now, and we need you. And I know you're better than this. Like you're not playing, like last year he played really well, had his run because he was playing with his friends who could like get under his skin and get to his head and really give him that extra boost that he may not be showing on the court. I know he's showing effort, but he's a much more talented creator and offensive player than he's showing right now this season. You need to get in his head, Steven. You need to call him out, do something, because 3 points from Costa isn't going to do it against this pack team. Costa, take your open shots, play like you play like Jordan Poole, like play creatively, play smart. You can do it. I think it could go either way, but yeah, that's the blueprint for me.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you go, Matt. You go ahead, Mike.
I have 2 things I want to add. I think that was very well covered. First of all, we give Nick Resendez all the credit he deserves for allowing his teammates to flourish. And Alex Pizzicrita has done the exact same thing this season, and it has been mentioned when he's been guarded by the best guy every game, and Arvin and Sarong have stepped up and carried that team on numerous occasions. And Alex Pizzicrita, he's obviously the best player on that team. He's the captain. He does not give a fuck as long as they're winning, and it shows. And that's what matters. And we give Nick all his credit for it. Alex has done the same thing. He scored 1 point in that playoff clinching game over the Galaxy. He couldn't have cared less. They won the game. He allowed Nunez and Rang were the hot hands, and he allowed them to flourish. The same thing happened against, I want to say the Hatamotos. Granted, they were without Curtin, but that was another game where Nunez and Rang put the team on the back. And Alex Pizzicrita deserves all the credit in the world for that. That being said, this game, Alex Pizzicrita needs to step up. He needs to put the team on his back for the first time in a while, because you're going to have Steve Shaw, as Ian mentioned, guarding one of Rang or Arvin, and you're going to have either Pat or Costa guarding Rang or Arvin. And Pat and Costa aren't known for their defense. And if one of those two is guarding Alex Pizzicrita, he should be able to blow by him every single time. If the defense collapses on him, he'll find the open man. But I think this is going to be a huge series for Alex Pizzicrita. I think it's finally time for him to put that tape on, which he hasn't really done yet this season. And it's not even because he's been bad. It's just he hasn't needed to yet because of how well Arvin and Sarong has played. Also, Owen Bullinger does deserve another mention for his incredible rebounding this season. I'm just going to throw that out there. And in terms of Costa, I think with Costa, and I can even relate to this as an experience because just as a player, when I'm playing on the Billies and I'm on the floor with Nick Zelanskis and Ryan Cadigan, when I shoot the ball, I'm under so much pressure to put it in because I'm almost taking a shot away from Nick Zelanskis or Ryan Cadigan. And I think Costa's going through the same thing right now, where he's not playing like himself because he has Steven Shaw with him at all times. And every time he shoots, he's hypothetically taking a shot away from Steven Shaw. And I don't think Steve Shaw minds him being more aggressive. He also has had a great shot selection, Costa has, and he's missed a lot of open looks. That's not who he is. He just hasn't been to his own standard. But I think a big part of that is the mental factor, which I experienced this season of, like, Steve Shaw's right there. If I'm shooting the shit, I better make it. And I think that's hurt his game. And I really hope he understands that, yes, he's playing with the best player in ASL history, but he is incredibly talented himself. He earns those shots. He deserves them. And he needs to be as confident as he was when he was playing with Silva, Cole, and Dan Gerges last season. So that's really what I have to add in terms of both those teams. I do think it's the pride series to lose, but I definitely would not be shocked if the Pack get their act or play like they've been playing these past 2 weeks and pull up an upset.
Yeah, I think you guys touch on a lot of good things. So I just want to like kind of sprinkle on the Sunday that you guys have made. When it comes to the pack, you guys touch on everything. One thing I also got to throw out there, and I think we all can attest to this because we were friends with him and we played with him. I think Arvin needs to keep his emotions under control. If he starts playing football or his shot or things aren't going his way, we've seen it historically that's when he becomes impulsive and that's when he starts playing desperately, and that hurts him and his team's chances of winning. Arvin also lets the chirping get to him. Like, that's part of the game. We all sit around on the sidelines and we chirp each other and it's awesome, but he does let it get to him. He does have and this sounds insulting, but it's not really meant to be. He does have pretty thin skin on the court. Off the court, it's very fun to make fun of Arvin. He's got very thick skin, but in terms of like dictating his behavior on the court, he's very, very malleable. He really is heavily influenced by his own inner thoughts as well as the crowd. So if Arvin can keep his emotions in check and not play desperate and not play overly aggressive, this should be, like you said, Ian, a lot closer. And I also think a 15-point game, 2 out of 3 series favors the pack more than the Pride. And also, they have to, yes, they don't have the size, but they have the speed. So I need the pack to spread the floor. We've seen what happens to Steven when he gets stretched pretty thin. And he's another guy where if he gets angry, he's going to play on-ball defense to whoever has the ball. He kind of throws defensive matchups out the window. So if you have Steven in that position, you're doing the right things. So they got to keep it up. When it comes to the Pride's game, player game, you got to run the offense through Steven. And also, like I mentioned to, I'm sorry, I'm going to agree with you, Michael, that Costa is kind of like the town ain't big enough for the two of us. Like, he needs the ball to make something special happen. Steven needs the ball to make something special happen. And obviously, Steven is the better player. So you're kind of taking that arsenal and those bullets out of Costa's gun. So, and I think the mental factor is also playing a role. But other than that, I think you guys really did a great job of covering everything. Close out Pat shooting. Pat has been an incredible shooter this year. He has woken up beyond the arc. He was always good, but he's really flourished beyond the arc this year. So yes, dedicate a lot of your defensive efforts to Steven, but you got to have eyes on the back of your head and watch out for the Pat 3. So definitely close out that. But any closing remarks, or if not, we can head over to the West.
Should we just do our final series predictions?
Yeah, we'll do that. Great idea. Ian, you're the guest. You go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna just start off with the upset. I think it's gonna be Pack in 3. I don't know if Costa is going to be that X factor. I think he definitely has the potential to be. I'm not gonna write him off, but I trust Sarong and Arvin's shooting, as well as Pissy really taking over one of those 2 games with a sustained momentum of just driving head down to the hoop. I know that he's a top 3 finisher in ASL history. He's going to be not going to have a rim protector to bother those shots. And yeah, Steven's going to have to do a lot. I can see him just taking over one game with 3 straight threes and making it a series. But at the end, it's going to be a hard fought Pack in 3 victory.
All right, Mike.
I am going to go with a 2-1 Pride victory. I do see the Pack making this series. I do see 3 very competitive games just based on the way the Pack can maintain a level of play. But historically, teams, as Ian mentioned, that the Pack are live and die by the 3 team. Obviously, Pittsburgh is going to have driving opportunities this game. But those teams historically have not flourished in the ASL. If you look for a recent example, the Stags last season, that they're live and die by the 3, propelled them to the regular season as one of the better teams, got them to the playoffs, and once they got there, they crumbled because they were taking good shots and they just weren't falling. So we'll see if it works out for them. It definitely, I can't remember a live or die by the 3 team that has had a lot of playoff success, but the Pack definitely could be the first. But I'm going to go with the Pride. I think Steve Shaw is fired up. He's not used to being in this position. So I'm ready to see an angry, aggressive Steven Shaw, and I'm ready to see a 2-1 series victory for the Pride.
Yeah. Same take, Mike. I'm going to take the Pride in 3. And I'm even going to add more specifics. I think the Pack are going to come out swinging, and they are going to land a pretty big game one victory where it's going to shock the world. And everyone's going to think that the Pack have a chance of putting it away in 2, and Steven will turn on. We've seen Steven kind of be chill and then lose, and then when it really matters, turn on and really never look back. I think this is going to be a similar outing for that. Not really much more to go from there. But we'll head over to the West. We have the Billies taking on the Hatamotos. At this point in time, I believe that the Billies and Hatamotos game, obviously the Hatamotos will be without Jack Curtin, and at this time, I believe the Billies will be without Nick Zelanskis. So with that in mind, Ian, what did the Billies need to do to beat the Hatamotos, and what do the Hatamotos need to do to beat the Billies?
So we're assuming that Nick Zelanskis and Curtin will be out for the season.
As of right now, that's where it stands.
Absolutely. I think, it's going to be tough for the Hatamotos to have. So they, in the run game without Curtin, or I guess 2 games, but the one game where they just had the 3 of them and no sub, I saw that their biggest struggle was initiating offense. So Germano, it's tough to put Nick Germano in that position to really be a facilitator to the big guys in Carter and Cole. He's definitely a great player. I had him many seasons. He's an admirable defender, plays tough, can drive the ball. I don't know if he's one of the better passers in the league. So for the Hatamotos to make this happen, I think Carter's going to need to really take over. I think Cole's taken a lot of shots and hasn't been making a ton of his jump shots or whatnot. Definitely stay active and stay controlled, but getting better shots and getting Carter inside is going to be huge. So whether that be taking Ryan off of Carter, getting him mismatches against one of you two, not to say you guys are mismatches, but just the height difference, obviously.
No, it's cool. You can say it.
Yeah. I think it's really going to have to go through him. So Nick Germano, entry pass to Carter, get some screen and roll actions, get some baseline cuts to get the mismatches. And I would honestly also urge Carter to not be afraid to shoot the 3. He's hit a lot this season, more than usual. And then on defense, I mean, it's really just a matter of whether Ryan can get hot or if Andrew and Michael can get hot. I think, honestly, I think just making sure Ryan can't really. He has like a couple of post moves which are really tough to stop. Carter's well equipped to stop them, but he can also kick it out and cause movement that Germano and Cole, especially attacking Cole's lack of speed, could be definitely helpful on those kickouts. Sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place. So I think the Hatamotos' best plan to win is to go through Carter on offense and stop Ryan's post game, and just keep scrambling and moving on defense. And for the Billies, Andrew, I think Andrew and Michael, I'm going to call you out a little bit, and I think that you guys, without Nick's absence, you're really going to need to step up a little bit to take on some of that scoring burden. Michael, I know last game you had pretty much the green light. I'm not going to take that green light away from you, but you have a bag in terms of pump fakes and getting people off the ground. So there's obviously going to be a lot of driving and kicking from Ryan. I urge you to use some of your pump fakes, fake a drive, pump fake, step to the left, set your feet, and pull. And Andrew, I think you're one of the more underrated finishers, slashers, and shooters. You have an overall offensive game. I don't want to just see you facilitating, because you are a great facilitator, but I don't want to just see post-ups. I want to see you attacking, because when you get the defense scrambling, especially 2 big guys like the Hatamotos, you get them scrambling, you get them running around, they're going to get tired, you're going to pull them out of the post, and you're going to get mismatches that you like. So I want to see more aggression from both of you, taking your correct shots. And then on defense, you're just going to have to buckle up and tell Ryan, hey, Carter's coming. You gotta step up. You gotta put your hands up, help double, help box him out. Other than that, I mean, I think this could go either way, but I think you guys have a really good shot.
Yeah, I think, and this is obviously not a insult to Nick Zelanskis, but I don't think it's any secret that the Hatamoto's loss of Jack Curtin significantly outweighs the Billies' loss of Nick Zalanskas. I mean, if you look at the one matchup between the Billies and Hatamoto's earlier in the season, where the Hatamoto's won 21-15, I want to say, maybe 21-17. It felt like worse than that. But Jack Curtin led his team in every statistical category, and that is how they did. It was the Jack Curtin show. It's been that way all season. I even spoke about their game, the Hatamoto's pack game last episode, in which they were defeated 21-7 to the pack. And similar to what Ian said, that they couldn't generate offense. I think they looked like a shell of themselves, even without Curtin. They'll way too much standing around, way too much just hoping someone else would carry the burden. They can't do that. They need to understand that they are all great individual players that even without their captain, it's not going to be easy. But Carter has arguably been the most improved player in terms of his IQ, in terms of being able to stretch the floor, in terms of being at the right place at the right time. Just because you don't have Curtin setting you up doesn't mean you can't do those things. You know, Nick Germano, is he a scorer? No, but he can handle the ball and he can play make better than he gets credit for. Cole Shingris really needs to be that. He needs to do all the dirty work for that. That's what he needs to focus on. That's what he did best last season. Obviously, he was nominated for Defensive Player of the Year, rightfully so, finished second place. He is going to play a key role on both ends. On the offense, he needs to be crashing the boards every single time. He needs to be setting screens. He needs to try, instead of settling for the mid-range every single time, he has settled so much this season. I don't think I've ever seen, and I'm sure he has, but I can't recall seeing him just try to take his man in the post. He'll do some post moves, but he'll either fade away or he'll take that pin. Yeah. Considering two of the three players will be Andrew and myself, we better see Cole try to actually attack the basket rather than settling for that mid-range, which his mid-range was excellent last season. It just hasn't been there this season. He definitely knows that at this point, just not falling. And I think he needs to be aggressive. I think Nick Germano needs to have a smart shot selection, which he has, but he can't. Without Curtin, he can't be entirely reliant on his teammates to do the scoring. He has to find a way. I'm likely going to be guarding him. He has to find a way to get some points on me. That's just how it's been. I know me and Nick Germano's matchups in the past have been a lot of neither scoring on either on our parts, and the Billies will be better off. The Billies could be fine if I don't score, but the Hatamotos will not be fine if Germano doesn't score. So he's got to find a way to put the ball in the hoop. Maybe that's not shooting threes like he's been doing, but he's got to find a way. And in terms of the Billies, I mean, you got a small sample of what they looked like without Nick Zalanskas last week. Granted, it was against the Hellkites team without their captain and their first round pick. So how much does that really say? But I think Ryan Carter played some of the best defense that's been played on Ryan this season. Ryan is going to need both Andrew and mine help. I know that, as I literally just said, that the Hatamotos are better off without Nick scoring than we are without me scoring, or whatever way I said it. But the point is that Ryan, with a defender the size of Carter, because we do not have many bigs in this league, he's gonna have to rely on both of us to step up. And it's if I'm hitting my shots, if Andrew's driving, that could be great. If neither are working, it could be awful. So we'll see what happens. You know, both Andrew and myself have had great games, and we both had pretty bad games too. So really, it's really tough to know what we're gonna get out of our Billies squad this season, this series. But I do see it being competitive. Just I think that the Curtin loss absolutely outweighs the Zalanskas loss that I started out by saying. But I think those losses will nullify each other enough that it will be a competitive series regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Hatamotos and losing Curtin, not only did they lose their best player, but it's been apparent that they've lost their identity. They've lost their sense of cohesiveness out on the court. Jack Curtin was so good at getting the best out of all of his players. And I think both Nick, Cole, or I shouldn't say both, all of them, all three, Nick, Cole, and Carter are good players individually, but we've seen them excel under the captainship of a few guys. Carter, like specifically, I think Carter has played some of his best basketball under Colin Kirkpatrick and Jack Curtin. And I feel like with the loss of that, it's kind of like rip the curtain. Wow, that'd be a really good headline. You kind of peek behind the curtain. And you get to see him as an individual player. Carter has so many great tangible skills out on the basketball court, but we really haven't seen, because he hasn't really needed to lead his team, be able to read the game. I really need to see that from him this week. If I'm a Hatamotos fan or a Hatamotos player, he really needs to kind of take charge and command this ship. He's had some really successful games against Ryan in the post. He needs to get into that. And also, Ryan has struggled against Carter in the post. And we've also seen Ryan kind of take himself out of the game with laziness. We've seen him get, not laziness, but sure, like he's just been too tired. We've seen him give up on rebounds, give up on plays, give up on loose balls simply out of his cardio. If I'm Carter or Cole or Nick, I would take that and run with it. I would 100%. You can win this game simply by just out grittying the Billies, especially Nick being one of the more gritty players not playing. So really tap into that skill. If you made the right, like Cole needs to attack the basket. He's probably going to be guarding me the majority of the game, and I'm going to be guarding him. So it's fair to say that there's a big size mismatch that he really needs to take advantage of. They need to move the ball. They need to talk. They all need to be on the same page. They're great players individually, and I have full faith in them. They just need to kind of put their heads together and really make up an offensive scheme. I'm not worried about them defensively at all. We always say on this show, this team, did they lose or did the other team win? And when they lose, it's really not them shooting themselves in the foot. It's they just got beat. They were outplayed. And I think that's going to ring true if the Hatamotos lose. They're really good defensive players, and I don't think that if they do lose, it's not going to be on the defensive end. With the Billies, stretch that floor, 100%. They need to keep playing gritty, and I think they need to pivot without losing Nick. With losing Nick Skolanskis, I don't think the Billies should focus on trying to replace what they had lost, but pivot and almost kind of draw up a new scheme and a new identity for this short series. I think the shooting of, I think Ryan Cadigan's a very slept on shooter. I think Michael Goldsmith is a great shooter, especially coming off the bench. I've struggled with shooting this season, but I put a few in. I think shooting threes, and especially in a game to 15, you are cutting the line. It is that you can end a game with a few shots by landing those threes. I think if I'm the Billies, I'm really trying to stretch the floor, tap into those threes, and really penetrate the paint when it presents itself to me. If we were to try to replace, if the Billies try to replace what they lost in Nick Skolanskis, they would be forcing it to the paint every time. I don't think that would really be beneficial to them. I think they really need to, Michael, Andrew, and Ryan need to kind of conjure up a new offensive scheme to really put their best foot forward. Defensively, like I had mentioned, Ryan has really struggled against Carter in the paint, and that's no, spite to him. Carter's 6'7". Ryan really needs to understand Carter's rhythm, when he's going to go up, when to, cut his losses and not go for the block, but try to get a steal off the dribble. I think that's really going to help. It's going to take a long time for that ball to get down to the ground and then up to Carter's hands, being 6'7". So find the ball in that. I think he's going to have to look for help from Andrew and Michael to clog Carter, because I'm very comfortable, or they should be very comfortable with Cole or Nick Skolanskis Nick Germano shooting a three. Obviously, you don't want to give them anything, but if you have to settle for something, I think that's your best bet. With that said, let's go through the series. I'll start first, then Mike, then Ian. I think it's going to be a Billies in 3. I think each game is going to be long, and I think it's going to be fought hard. But ultimately, I think, like you said, the loss of Jack Curtin is a bit more detrimental than the loss of Nick Skolanskis, and I think the game is going to show that. I also think that it's easy for the Billies to have their captain, like I mentioned, their identity. So even though Nick Skolanskis is so good, and some people say he's even better than Ryan, he doesn't carry the identity of the team like he were if he were a captain. So I think that also helps the Billies. And I think it will be a 2-1 win Billies. Mike, your take.
Yeah, I basically was just going to say everything you just said. I don't need to drag it on too much longer. I'm also going to go 2-1 Billies. I actually could see some blowouts going either way, just based on how the teams have been. There's been both the Hatamotos and Billies have won a lot of blowouts and lost a little blowouts. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if there's some games that aren't the most competitive. But just, simply, I'm going to lean in again, like losing Jack Curtin, who is going to be, in all likelihood, will be nominated for MVP, was the front runner, led that team in almost every statistical category, and most importantly, made everyone around him better. That is huge, and that is what's going to cost them, and that's why the Billies will win the series 2-1.
Yeah, Ryan? I don't think the Hatamotos have enough offensive firepower and creation to get to 15 for 3 games. I'm not going to drag this on too much longer. I think it's going to be Billies in 3. I think their only real, hope is for Carter to go off, but you can double him really easily and live with the Germano 3. Yeah, Phillies in 3.
All right. Well, we did tackle all that. Now we get to do the fun novelty segment of the show. So, if Michael and Ian, would you do me the favor of just covering your eyes while I share my screen? I do not want to reveal anything. So I will let you know shortly. Let me do share screen. There we go. We will do a Chrome. And then
Also, shout out Zach Mola's video today.
for real. You guys are good, by the way. You are more than welcome to come back.
That was incredible by Zach.
That was great. Did you like the meme I posted
You posted a meme?
on my story? It's unimportant. It's the Drake meme. It's
I didn't see
I'll
it.
show it to you. I'll show it to you. I mean, you'll see it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, save that for later. Oh, okay.
It's Nolan's Oppenheimer Z14.
Oh my God, that is
Like,
great.
Edit. Anyway, all right, my friends, Michael, Ian, the fans at home, welcome to our special segment of what the heck? Finish that sentence.
This is
An
unreal.
analyst hour special segment.
Wow.
So I'm going to project a half finished sentence on the board, and without thinking too hard, and I don't want any explanation, but if it doesn't make sense or I really want to pry you more, I want you to explain it. But for the moment, just say the sentence and we'll leave it be. Ian, you can start first with our first sentence. Sentence 1. The most underrated player in ASL League history is
Arvin Nunez.
Michael.
Oh, we're both answering. Wow. Jeez, I don't want to put too much thought into it. Tyler Beraldi.
For me, I would say the most underrated player in league history is Evan Miller.
Wow.
You like that one?
Yes. Wow. I mean,
Well,
I wish we
I've
got
had
to
time
see-
to think about it, so that's unfair. It's
I
unfair.
wish we got to see more than a season and a half Evan Miller, but that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, he a little slippery. Shout out.
Oh, the Korean Kings. That was his
Yeah.
team.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sentence 2. Michael, you're going to go first now.
All right.
Player X fits the Team X's system more than his current teams.
All right. I am going to say that Matt Schuerk fits better with the Spartans than he does with his current team. And I could get into that if we need to, but
No, don't want to hear it.
I think that Kostas Anzopoulos fits the Billy system more than his current teams.
well, I love that. Yeah. Andrew?
I also was going to do Costa, and I
Sorry.
say he fits the Spartan system more than his current teams. All right, Ian, back to you. Sentence 3. When it's all said and done, the best shooter in ASL history will be
Stephen Shaw. Yeah. No.
Mike?
Myself. No, I'm kidding. I was also going to say Steve Shaw.
I'm going to say Colin Kirkpatrick. Mike, back to you. The player I hate to play against most is.
Oh, this is a no-brainer. Pat Arsh. No-brainer.
Oh, my turn?
Mhm.
Carter Brzezinski.
For me, it is Kostas Anzopoulos. For some reason, I can never get down his moves as a defender.
I think it's funny how you see who's guarded by like the top players, the second round players, and the third round players.
All right, Mike. We are now halfway. Well, after we finish this, we are halfway through. and then we
All
can
right.
go back and talk about that if you want.
All right.
The most slept on attribute of player X is.
The most slept on aspect of AJ Clark is his facilitating.
I like that one.
I already said this before, not in this segment, but in the podcast. But the most slept on attribute of Sarang Novkal's game is his perimeter defense.
Andrew, come on, you saw that you made these.
I know, but I wanted it to be natural. I wanted it to be
Okay, I respect
be
it.
authentic. I didn't want to be reading off a script or just regurgitating my past thoughts. The most slept on attribute of Ian Hale's game is his offensive bag.
Interesting.
I believe this is you. The player who changed the ASL culture is or are.
Wow. I want to say Colin Kirkpatrick. What was his team with Carter?
That was
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. Yeah, I think Colin Kirkpatrick and Carter changed ASL culture.
I am gonna say Ryan Cadigan and Connor Fu, two of the biggest competitors in the league, and they're taking it seriously, led to a chain reaction of everyone else taking it more seriously.
Yeah, my answer while you two were going was Connor Fu. I completely agree. He was a new gen player, and watching him take it so seriously really kind of showed us promise to future generations of players. So I would agree with you, Michael, that Connor Fu, I believe, changed the ASL culture forever. All right, Mike, back to you. Sentence 7. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The biggest what if in ASL history is.
The COVID season that never happened.
I think it is Connor's team in the summer of 2019 with Durham and Tequeezy. I think that
was Durham, Connor, Durham, Sean Tequeezy, if I remember correctly.
No, Sean was on my team. That it was me, Sean. I'm forgetting the other player.
Was it Tyler Baraldi?
No, I think Tyler Baraldi was a stag when he played.
I don't know, but I know you're talking about because Connor Fu missed that playoffs.
Yeah.
And he had the 1-0 lead over your team, and you ended up beating them without Fu.
Exactly.
And they were the best team in the regular
Connor's first championship, and he would have been solidified in the GOAT discussion if he was there that playoffs.
For me, it's like no debate. The biggest what if in ASL history is Emma Kim. I think it would have been an absolute trident of Colin, Steven, and Emmett, and I do believe that Emmett would be leading that trident. And back to you, sentence 8. It's crazy to think that X happened.
It's really crazy to think that the Galaxy got eliminated from the playoffs this year. I told Connor that 3 hours ago. I just can't believe it still.
It is crazy to think that 0-3 Stampede team with led by 2 rookies got themselves the finals and nearly won.
That was such a good one, both of you. Way better than mine. And I feel like the answer to this question is a bit misplaced. It belongs to a different question. I can't believe the Pete Stylo shot had happened. Him just playing one game as a substitute, people kind of, laughing at him with him. Just, Cedric wasn't too nice to him. And then he hit that shot, and that obviously kind of changed the world forever. So I should also say that Pete Styles changed ASL culture as well. I don't know why it didn't come to me, but I still can't believe that day has happened. Mike, sentence 9. Stats aside, I think the hardest player to score on is.
I've said this before, and I'll steal this quote from himself again. As Nick Germano said, he's not going to put up the numbers, but you hate playing against him. His defense is incredible, for all of his, I guess we're not supposed to explain, but his defense is incredible and he really can't get any moves on him. So Nick Germano.
I'm going to take another Nick and make it Nick Solanskis. I think he's the most versatile defender in the league and deserving of deep play this year.
I've said this about this player before. Unfortunately, he did retire, but I think stats aside, the hardest player to score on is Sean Bradshaw. I think he's tough. I think he's fast. I think he's a brute. And when he takes his shirt off and he's slimy, you don't even really want to get near him. So that also plays a factor as well.
Well, good thing we have the consent rule now. Sean
yes,
just
we
dodged
do.
that
That's
one.
why we instated the consent rule.
Yeah, he dodged a bullet there.
All right. Ian, last but not least, take us home. And then after we're done, please remember questions you guys want to reiterate on, like an answer from someone else that you want them to reiterate and further explain, because I have one for you, Ian. But sentence 10. A perfect ASL season looks like
Spartans championship. Yeah, I love this team, as I said, like actually really like playing with everyone. Can't wait to see where we go in a couple weeks.
I think this was an excellent season, but what we really missed was a season where all 4 games were happening at the same time at West Middle School with good weather consistently. That's the heart of the ASL, and this season still prevailed and was still an excellent season without it, but that is what the perfect season looked like, and it's probably why last season was the best season in ASL history.
I think a perfect ASL season looks like everyone shows up, good weather every Sunday, no beefs between teams, meaning like, not that it was a big deal, but the whole like time issue with the Hellkites, and like that's obviously not fun for anyone. So when there's debates or fights, that means at least one party is unsatisfied. So a perfect ASL season is perfect attendance, perfect weather, and then I don't really care where it goes from there. And that's when I think like the camaraderie really builds and what ASL is truly about. So that would be my perfect season. But that does conclude our first Finish That Sentence. How did you guys like it?
I was nervous before each one, but I loved it.
I loved it too. You guys took the most like utilitarian, like everyone is happy approach to that last question, and I just
I love your answer though. I loved your answer still.
Yeah, no,
that's the commissioner versus the player outlook right there.
Right. No, thank you for that, Andrew. That was really creative.
Thank you.
Your brainchild did wonders.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Okay, I have to go back to your take, Ian, claiming Arvin Nunez to be the most underrated player in ASL history. I need you to elaborate on that.
I think Arvin's a winner. Overall, I think Arvin's resume, he stayed consistent throughout the course of his career in terms of his stats. He's always been a 3-and-D guy, a hard-nosed guy. The emotions can get the better of him, but Arvin has been deep in the playoffs more than most players can say that they have. He's won 2 championships, single-handedly carried me to 1 championship. That was early in his career. But I think overall, Arvin has shown consistently I don't think he's ever been like a first-round exit or even missed the playoffs. He's always there at the right time. He knows when to get hot. Playoff Arvin's been a thing, and I hope to see it come back this season as well.
Yeah, mine was more, I think Arvin is like very rated, and I think he's appreciated for his skill. One point that I like that you made is that he does have a pretty good track record when it comes to going into the playoffs and being productive. Last season, obviously, was kind of an asterisk, but I like your point. I regard Arvin as a very good player in ASL. So, Mike, who'd you say for the most underrated player?
I said Tyler Baraldi, but that is honestly started to get nullified this season. But I think up until this season, he was incredibly underrated, and finally he's in a system where he's flourishing. He's getting the respect he deserves. But up until this point, Tyler Baraldi had no respect in the league for absolutely no reason at all.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And I obviously said Evan Miller, partially because we don't get to see a lot of him. He gets swept under the rug. So I think he would be a great street ball point guard. And it sucks that we don't get to see a lot of them. But before we sign off, guys, are there any other questions or sentences that you want one other person to further explain?
Yes.
I hate to be. Oh, go.
Sorry. Could you explain Ian's offensive bag? I forgot what question that comes in. Um,
Yes, I'd be more than happy to.
the most slept on.
Most slept on attribute, in my opinion, of Ian Hale is his offensive bag. This is partially because I see more of Ian than anyone else does. Ian and I, for a long stretch of a lot of summers, play basketball nearly every morning. So I've watched him like grow more comfortable with the basketball, kind of develop his moves. We run a lot of drills where we'll one on one, and then you only have 3 dribbles to score. So seeing him get more creative with the ball has been incredible, and I think he's shown a little bit more of it this season. But I do believe that people kind of just laugh at Ian and write him off because he was like, he's really nice, so it's easy to do that to nice people. But 2, he has had a pretty bad and goofy. He's had some pretty bad and goofy performances in the ASL. So I really want people to bury those ideas of him. They happened, and he deserved the criticism for those. But I think that is past Ian. That is old Ian. And I think he has a great offensive bag. I think he could score beyond the arc, especially for a 4th man. Score beyond the arc. He can create his own shot, or he's been a lot more comfortable developing his own shot at the elbows. He does struggle with finishing because I think he gets very nervous when he's getting closed out. We all do. It's part of the game. But I think overall that's my reasoning behind that answer. Mike, you were saying something too.
No, I was just gonna say I hate to be boring, but I honestly don't remember anything that I had a huge problem with.
Okay. Well, that sounds like it is. We have drawn our conclusion. Ian, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you,
It's been
seriously.
an absolute pleasure. And like I said, this has been long overdue. I'll say that for the 4th time. Good luck in the playoffs. Just know I'm an analyst right now. I'm rooting for you. But come Sunday, it will be bad blood. And, I got to put the Billies first. So I'm going to tell you this now. We're all praying for the Spartans. I'm telling you this as a fan. You are Andover's team. You truly embody. I don't think there's ever been a team that embodies the ASL more than the Spartans. Michael, can you attest to this?
1000%. 1000%.
Thank you guys again for having me. I'm leaving with a big heart. You guys have just been gassing our team, and I have full confidence in that, in us as well. Good luck to the Billies. I really hope Nick gets better soon, but even without Nick, you guys are more than capable of doing this. Step up this week on offense. Be confident. You guys are great basketball players. You guys have been doing this for a long time, and just treat it like another game. It's just another basketball game. You're there. It's Sunday. Be excited, get hyped, and I'm rooting for you guys too.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Wait, before we go, are we going to see you? Because, this week I'm sure it's going to be a playoff series on this day, playoff series on this day. Are you taking the week off to go vacation? Are you going to go right back to the gym? Like, how are you spending this week off of ASL? Well-deserved week off. A well-deserved week off.
I had a few cruises to cancel, one to Alaska, one to Cuba. But yeah, no, I'm gonna be there cheering everyone on. I love being there on Sundays. It's a lot of fun seeing everyone. I just don't see a lot of these kids every week and I throughout the year at all. But just the camaraderie is something that I'm gonna miss, and I love it. So don't know if I'll be there for the midweek reschedule, but definitely on Sunday. I will be there.
Great. We will see you there. And I must add before we do go, it feels really nice to be there on a bye week and not have to worry about playing and not have to be with the nerves. So it's, get a coffee, grab a beer, get there, throw up a lawn chair. It feels really good to be there on a bye week.
It's a long time coming. I've been in the wild card round for too long recently, so it feels great. And yes, we'll be relaxed.
Yes, make the most of it. All right, guys, it has been a pleasure. Until next time.
All right, see you guys.